Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. Welcome to the Depression Recovery Channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Today is Flashback Friday, a feature in which I republish one of my earlier videos you might not have seen that contains really important coping strategies that will help you attain a better mood. Now here's today's video. Well, the title of today's video is called 5 Signs That Your Job May Be Toxic to Your Mental Health. Of course, we have to start with a joke. Those of you who have been following me for, we started in 7 years now. You notice I'm getting a little bald over here and also on top of my head. And, but I guess I'm learning to accept that my father had baldness. But when Satan gets bald, there'll be hell to pay. All right. Well, since that was so funny, let's try another hell joke. I was not raised a Catholic, but my wife was. And I once went to church and this priest was sprinkling holy water. I guess that's water that's blessed and purified and by the priest. Anyway, I said to the priest after the service, said, how exactly do you make holy water? He says, it's very simple. You just boil the hell out of it. Before I actually begin the topic of today, I want to make a brief, really exciting announcement. I'm sure all of you have heard of podcasts. Maybe you subscribe to some of them. But recently, a week ago, I was actually interviewed on a mental health podcast out of Detroit. It was an hour interview. It went really well. I'm going to put the link in the description section of the video. But if you go to your iTunes podcast or podcast app on your Android, simply type in Liz, L-I-Z, Life, L-I-F-E, Guru, G-U-R-U. It'll pop right up. I'm episode number 6. All right. We'll talk more about podcasts in future videos. In the meantime, again, the video title is 5 Signs That Your Workplace Might Be Toxic to Your Mental Health. And so, everybody has bad days at work. You might have a customer be rude. You might be having to race for a deadline. Your manager might snap at you. If this happens every now and then, 10% of the time, whatever, you can live with it. But if you find things like this happening almost on a daily basis, and you're just completely stressed out and you feel devalued and you wake up in the morning dreading going to work, you might be in a toxic workplace environment. Now, being in a toxic work environment, and I think anybody who's worked enough years or had enough different jobs can relate to this, it's not bad because it's not fun or not enjoyable, but if someone is predisposed to depression and anxiety, it can actually trigger an episode. And if you already have symptoms of depression and anxiety, like I do, it can make it a lot worse to be in a constantly stressful work environment. So I wanted to list 5 signs. This actually came from a post on a really cool mental health website called The Mighty. Some of these ideas did, the rest I got from my own experience. So I want to list 5 of these signs so you can recognize them. And if you're in the middle of them, you can do things to take care of yourself. So let's take a look at some of these signs of a toxic workplace. Well, number 1, being overworked. Now, this is really common. I hear this from my group members, my friends, people who work especially in social service agencies. Oh my God, with the workload they have. And this occurs because the organization can't or won't hire extra people, so they're short-staffed. So everybody has to pick up the slack. And you may have to stay extra hours at work and not even get paid overtime. And in some cases, if you're a new hire and everybody else is burned out from being overworked and you ask for some help, they might not even give it to you. And this, of course, will create even more stress in the workplace if there's friction among the coworkers. Here's the second sign: not feeling valued or appreciated. So we just talked about having to do all this extra work. Well, in spite of that, I've heard in situations the management doesn't show appreciation, doesn't show, a thank you for all the work you've done as a worker. In fact, you get criticized for what you failed to do. And of course, after a while, this can become demoralizing. In addition, the other people, your coworkers, are also getting criticized for what they're not doing. They're also getting devalued. So they start to get snippy at each other and with you. And again, this creates even more stress. The third sign that an working environment might be toxic for your mental health is high turnover. Now, this often occurs in caregiving jobs, such as working in an assisted living organization. And of course, what happens in these jobs is the pay is so low, you can't really support yourself or your family. And many people in those situations say, well, why should I work so hard if I can't even survive on this job? I'm just going to slack off. And in one case, a friend of mine who's quite conscientious was working in a caregiving facility, and she had to pick up the extra slack, sometimes spending 2 or 3 hours afterwards because a person was late, didn't show up to take care of, a resident, and my friend had to stay there until the other person got there, doing all the work. Of course, this again, the poor pay leads people to quit, so there's even more turnover, which means that the new people come in, they don't really care. So this obviously is going to drive you crazy after a while, and you'll probably have to leave like everybody else. The fourth sign is having an overly demanding or dictatorial boss. Now this is, I hear a lot. People say that my boss is very demanding, places unreasonable expectations on me, and then when I can't meet them, the boss gets angry or even abusive. Now this is interesting because I learned from a psychologist a long time ago. Oh, another thing, by the way, is that the boss can be really nice one minute and then really abusive the next. So you never know what you're going to get, kind of like living with an alcoholic parent. And so the psychologist says that a lot of people run their family of origin issues through their job, through their work, and they recreate in their workplace what they experienced growing up. So if you had an overly angry mother or father, you may have an overly angry boss. Very interesting. So what do? You go into therapy and you work out those issues that are still haunting you from your past, and once you do, they won't show up at work anymore. The fifth and final sign, I'm sure there are more, but in terms of this video, the fifth and final sign of potentially being in a toxic workplace is working in an environment where there are cliques and gossip. Or is it cliques, I guess?
Cliques.
It's cliques, thank you. My pronunciation from my videographer. Yeah, like in high school, right? There are all these cliques. There's the smart kids, and there's the athletes and the stoners, blah, blah, blah. So the same thing can happen in a workplace. So one of my group members said she went to work in a place where the new hires, were tested. They were kind of excluded from the main group until they were there long enough to stay at the job, and then people said, okay, they've passed the test, they've, gone through the initiation, now we'll talk with them. Well, that's not very nice. And then also, of course, with cliques, there becomes gossip, people talking about you behind your back, complaining what you did do, what you didn't do, and that, of course, is quite dysfunctional. It can be wearing after a while. So what can you do if you're working in an environment that's toxic to your mental health? Well, the first thing, of course, is talk to your boss or upper management and see if they can institute some changes. If that doesn't work, if the culture is one of dysfunction, then probably the best thing to do is look for another job. After all, and I just realized this, many people spend more time at work than they do at home with their own families. So you got to make sure your work environment is at least tolerable. So what do? Well, don't quit your job immediately, because if you quit your job, one, you won't get unemployment insurance, and two, studies show that people are more likely to get a job if they already have a job. So, start looking for work, but of course this creates its own stressor. Well, that's why I just created a video called How to Deal with Job Stress Depression. It was from 2 weeks previous. You can go back. Let me see, when was it going to be put up? What is today, guys? It's June, oh my God, it'll probably be up on June 24th. That's right. You can look for it then. And in the meantime, you can search for it also, How to Deal with Job Stress Depression. You'll find it. And that will be a good companion video to this one. This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you found the information on this Flashback Friday video helpful. If so, please give it a like, as likes draw more and more people to this channel, and hopefully some more subscribers. You can also leave your comments in the comments section or email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you do want to subscribe to this channel, click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page. And if you click on the bell to the right, you'll be notified every time I do a new video or live chat. And if you want to contribute to this channel and become a patron, simply click on the Patreon image. You'll be taken to my crowdfunding site. And until next video, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much.